The following is an exclusive TCS Metro Sports presentation. September 11th, 1982, Penn State tries to keep their 18-game winning streak against Maryland alive. But Boomer Esiason, who will start for the Cincinnati Bengals tomorrow, puts on a passing show at Beaver Stadium. A 60-yard touchdown bomb. Maryland leads Penn State 24-23 on the reception by Russell Davis. But the eventual national champions had a great passing attack of their own. Todd Blackledge to Greg Garrity. Penn State led 29-24. Now Blackledge, who starts for the Kansas City Chiefs, to the Philadelphia Eagles #1 draft pick Kenny Jackson. Penn State wins the ball game 39-31. They keep their winning streak against Maryland going at 19. TCS Metro Sports presents the National Independent Football Network Game of the Week. It's the Maryland Terrapins visiting the Penn State Nittany Lions. At Beaver Stadium in University Park, Pennsylvania. Hello again, everybody. I'm Stan Savran, along with my partner, Turn, in just a moment.
Sitting there, but you can trap and save that heat loss with ordinary insulation or a special wrap. Call for a free home conservation booklet.
At Beaver Stadium, I'm Stan Savran, along with my partner George Paterno, and time to take a look at the key players in today's game. Maryland is already missing one. Their starting quarterback, Frank Reich, separated his shoulder last week against Wake Forest. He will not play today, so Coach Bobby Ross has had to go with his backup, Stan Gelbaugh.
Well, Stan Gelbaugh had a great game last week. He came in and he threw 6 for 6, and that's not bad. Led 2 scoring drives. And the only difference between this Maryland team this year from last year is good quarterbacking. Obviously, they're looking for another Boomer Esiason. Whether Stan Gelbaugh is that man, we'll find out today.
Gelbaugh is a junior from Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Of course, Boomer Esiasons aren't easy to find. Maybe Maryland, with a backup quarterback, rather inexperienced, will have to go to the running game. And when they do, the key man is fullback Rich Badonic. He is a tough customer, a little bowling ball Charlie Toller type.
Right, Stan, and he's one of my favorite runners because he's 5'9", which is about my size, but he weighs 225. He has a massive, gigantic offensive line in front of him, a low center of gravity, a tough runner, and he'll be tough for Penn State to stop today.
Penn State's offense has been a bit sporadic at times this year, but they have been very well satisfied with their defense. In fact, even though they lost to Texas last week and gave up 28 points, those of you who saw the game know full well that Texas was not able to put a big scoring drive against them. One of the keys in the secondary is Mike Zordich.
Well, I think Joe is happy about that Texas could not put a long drive together, but Mike Zordich, who's the strong safety or hero in Penn State's defense, is a very aggressive football player. Here you see him coming on a blitz and getting to the quarterback, but once in a while he's over aggressive and gets beat deep on pass defense, especially man-to-man.
And that happened once last week. One of the real outstanding defensive players, young player, a sophomore, but a guy who has tremendous, perhaps even All-American potential, is outside linebacker Shane Conlon. The guy plays the position well for being so inexperienced, and he's a linebacker who makes the big play.
I think Shane Conlon is one of the, in the trend of the Penn State linebackers, one of the finest young linebackers we've seen come on down the pike. There you see him on a blitz. Not only did he put pressure on the quarterback, he got his hands on the ball, deflecting it a little bit. Well, here he is coming up and making the hit on that particular play. A beautiful linebacker in the cast of the great Penn State linebackers.
Maryland has always been known for good defense. They play a wide tackle 6. You don't see it that often. They bring up 8 men to the line of scrimmage, and the key there are their linebackers, and they have 2 excellent linebackers.
Well, they have Wilson and they have Fossett, which are both big linebackers. And as you said, the key to their defense, wide tackle 6, flush everything into the inside, make the linebackers do all the work and get the tackles. And you see their statistics are very high.
Well, you know, the wide tackle 6, they're bringing 8 men to the line of scrimmage. That would invite Penn State to pass. But Penn State has not had great success, nor has Doug Strang. It would seem like Maryland's saying, we dare you to pass the ball.
Well, I'm sure they're going to dare them to throw the ball today because they show man-to-man coverage a lot like Texas. And one of the more difficult things to do when you want to get your pass game going is to do it against man-to-man, because you can't find any voids in the zone where the quarterback can get a couple easy completions. When you get good man-to-man coverage, you got trouble. I think Doug Strang is about due for a big day. He is a great quarterback, and he'll prove that.
Doug Strang has completed only 40% of his passes this year, but the invitation has been issued by the Maryland defense to go ahead and throw. We'll see if he's able to move the football through the air today. And we'll be back with more of our pregame show right after this. Taken Maryland to 2 consecutive. We're nearing the opening kickoff, and we'll be back in just a moment. This game is being brought to you by Sony, the one and only, and by Daily Juice Products, who remind you there's a Daily Treat for everyone, and by National Car Rental. You deserve national attention. Maryland Terrapins with a record of 2-2 on the season. Penn State with a record of 3-1. Penn State opened with a win over Rutgers, 15-12. They then beat Iowa, 20-17. William and Mary, 56-18. Then last week at the Meadowlands in New Jersey, the game that you perhaps saw here on TCS Metro Sports, they lost to the #1 ranked and undefeated Longhorns, 28-3. For Maryland, Syracuse beat them in their opener, 23-7. Then they lost to surprising Vanderbilt, now ranked in the top 20, 23-14. But then 2 straight wins. On the road, Maryland beat West Virginia 20-17. And last week in an ACC conference game, they beat Wake Forest 38-17. George, Maryland, of course, been looking for a replacement for Boomer Esiason. That is easier said than done. A #2 draft choice. He's going to start tomorrow for the Cincinnati Bengals. They found his backup, Frank Reich. Reich will not play today. I would imagine that any coach is concerned about coming into a game with a backup quarterback.
Well, a coach is always nervous with an inexperienced quarterback. But when you come into a big game like this, even though Gelbar played well against Wake Forest, he went 6 for 6. This is an entirely different ball game. He's coming in here starting against a major college football team on their home field. So I'm sure Coach Ross is quite apprehensive.
Gelbaugh got into the game against Wake Forest. It was his first chance to throw the ball, and he was 6 for 6 and led 2 scoring drives for the Maryland Terrapins. It's a great day for football. It's the kind of day that was created for football, or vice versa. It is now 52 degrees, but it is expected to reach near 60 degrees. The wind, 6 to 12 miles per hour. It should not be a factor in the football game. It will be blowing from right to left as you look at it on your screen. For our head coach, Joe Paterno, another challenge. He felt this was a young football team, starting only 4 seniors out of the starting 22. Also not playing today, wideout Kevin Campbell. He was hurt a couple of weeks ago. And DJ Dozier, who missed Penn State's 2nd and 3rd games of the season, came back to play about a half against Texas last week. He re-injured that groin problem that had kept him out of the prior 2 games. He is doubtful for today, and I think it would be safe to say, George, that your brother Joe would like to win this game without DJ Dozier so that he is not battling this problem all season long.
Well, yeah, you know, they want to win the game, but it's a dilemma. You know, you put your best running back in, and he's been nagged by this groin pull, and he keeps aggravating it. And you might never have him 100% for the whole season if you don't let it heal properly. I'm sure he's going to go with Mumford and Clark, see how the games go if the game goes on. But there is a possibility, in a perfect situation, he might spot Dozier today.
He looked good in warm-ups, but again, that can be sometimes misleading. Dozier, a 1,000-yard rusher last year. In fact, the first one to ever rush for 1,000 yards as a freshman at Penn State. Has only gained 140 yards, but to give you an idea, he has averaged 5.8 yards per carry, and he's the guy that can turn a 4-yard gain into a 60-yard gain.
Well, he's a great back. I mean, it's just, you know, everybody concludes that he's a great one, and it's just unfortunate. He got the groin pull, and he's missed so many ball games. But You want to keep, he's got a tough schedule ahead of him, and he's got a lot of tough teams to play. You want that type of a ball player to be healthy so he can really show you what he can do and he can make his contribution.
Of the game, Penn State coming out of the field. The Maryland team is already at their sideline, and the captains are getting set to meet at midfield. What college football is all about as you see the balloons being sent up into the air. Maryland plays a wide tackle 6. They've been playing it for years. They started under Jerry Claiborne, and of course he had a lot of personnel. When you got Randy White, you can play a wide tackle 1 when Randy White is the 1 tackle. But as Coach Paterno explained in our pregame analysis, it is not the true stand-up hard rock wide tackle 6. They do substitute cornerbacks for linebackers as we'll get set for the toss of the coin.
George Cullen, George Marcosha, Jerry Faber, Bill Cronin, Don McDonald. There's the head, there's the tail. Call it in the air. If I miss it, we'll throw it again.
Tail.
He calls it tail. Tail it is. You've won the toss.
Defer to the second half.
He's deferring to the second half. Wait a second. Maryland has won the toss. Defers to the second half. It'll be your choice this half. You want the ball? Which goal do you want to spin around this way, boys? Blue will receive in this end. Good luck.
Penn State will receive the opening kickoff, and we'll be back with that opening kickoff right after this. Over 84,000 fans on hand at Beaver Stadium in University Park, Pennsylvania. Maryland to kick off. Jess Atkinson, a wonderful kicker for Maryland, will kick deep to Penn State. Tony Mumford and Kevin Woods back deep. This is Woods 5 yards deep, and he will have to down it after bobbling the kickoff. Woods was averaging 20.4 yards per return. There will be no return. Penn State will start out at their own 20 on the touchback. Let's take a look at that Penn State starting offensive unit. The quarterback, Doug Strang. Tony Mumford and Steve Smith, the starting running backs in the I tandem. Herb Bellamy, Rocky Washington, the wideouts. Dean DeMidio is the tight end. The offensive line, strong tackle Stan Short, Jeff Woofter, Nick Hayden, the center, Mark Sickler starting for the injured Rob Smith at guard, and Chris Conlon at tackle. Doug Strang, the senior quarterback, has only completed 40% of his passes this year. Penn State opens in a wing left. Steve Smith got room up to the 20 round and 5 yards to go for Maryland. Ted Chapman, Tom Parker, Greg Thompson, and Dwayne Dunham, the front 4. Shankweiler, Fawcett, Wilson, and Donis are the outside linebackers, while the outside people line up on the end to make the wide tackle 6. Key to Covington, Al Covington, they are brothers, and Joe Kraus is the strong safety. 2nd and 5, Smith again. Left tackle near the 30-yard line and close to the first down. They'll spot him about a foot shy, 40% of his passes, although Coach Joe Paterno defended him this week, saying that some of the problem he's had, their wideouts have been injured. They have not worked together consistently in practice because of those injuries. Plus, they have used as many as 7 and 8 wide receivers in a game. First third down conversion attempt, Joe Paterno with a record of 173, 39, and 2 in his 19th year at Penn State. Power I to the right. Tim Manoa. He's got the first down to the 30.
Trying to establish something inside.
Will those linebackers drop off into pass coverage in the flat? First and 10. Tony Mumford across the 35 and out to the 38-yard line. Tony Mumford, who is averaging 5 yards per carry, 293 yards. In fact, as Penn State's leading rusher, picks up 7.
Once again, they stay inside. It's just a little tailback draw play. They go up inside the tackles. Good blocking at the point of attack. As far as their linebackers, they use their defensive ends as linebackers, and that's what Joe meant when he says a little bit more sophisticated. They will drop off for outside, underneath coverage, but the inside linebackers basically will take hooks against the pass. 2nd down and 3 for Penn State. 4 plays, all on the ground. Now Strang drops to throw. Fires over the middle. It is intercepted by Maryland.
The ball was intended for Rocky Washington. It bounced out of his arms, and Eric Wilson, a senior from Charlottesville, Virginia, Maryland's leading tackler, comes up with the ball. 6'2", 248 yards.
All right, now Strang has plenty of time. It's an underneath pattern to Rocky Washington. The flanker coming across. He put it right on the numbers. Washington, you see it again here. Washington did not squeeze the ball. It pops up. Maryland has the
First down, Maryland at the Penn State 43. Holder in short motion. Podonick, the fullback, trying to get outside, but he is dropped by Lance Hamilton. Bob White, the defensive end, hit him first. He was cleaned up by Hamilton. Rich Podonick is a tough runner. Stan Gelbaugh, quarterback. Alvin Blount, the tailback. Podonick is the fullback. Holder and Hill, the wideouts. Farrell Edmonds, the big tight end. Edwards, Haraka, Glover, Holinka, and Marlavelle, the transfer from Notre Dame, is the right tackle. Second down, 9. Gelbaugh out in the flat. Blount looking for blockers, gets inside the 40 down to the 36-yard line. Pick up 5. It'll bring up third down and a short 3. Mike Zordich.
Coach Ross is from the Kansas City Chiefs. He was an ex-offensive coordinator. There's Penn State's defense. White, Moles, Russo, and Morgan.
Conlon, Maschantonio, Graham, and Zordich.
And that last play was a little screen play where the quarterback reads the linebacker drop.
Third down, 3 yards to go. Maryland in a pro set. Blount escapes one tackler. He's got the first down, knocked out of bounds at the
corner, and Maryland has
averaging 12 yards per catch this year, but he has not caught one for a touchdown. Interesting that Maryland would pass on first down. Now they face a 2nd and 10. Blitz. Gelbaugh in the flat. He's got his tight end and 8. That's Edmonds' 5th reception on the year now, and he was only averaging 2.5 yards per catch, so he actually was a little short of his average with a 2-yard gain. Gelbaugh rolling. Fires. It is incomplete and almost intercepted. In and out of the hands of the intended receiver. Would have been short of the first down anyway, and that will bring on the Maryland field goal unit. Mike Zordich applied the hit that separated the receiver from the ball.
Well, it was a good call, but it was good defense also. Gelbaugh realized he couldn't run it in, and he tried to throw the ball, and it was incomplete.
Jess Atkinson is Maryland's all-time leading scorer. He has been a prolific field goal kicker. He was cut by the soccer team and then decided, well, I'll try football. Well, he's now Maryland's leading scorer this year on field goals. He is 5 out of 8. This will be a 31-yard attempt, an angle to the left, with a following wind. The kick is up, it is long enough, and it is good. So Maryland is able to take advantage of the turnover. They convert it into a field goal by Jess Atkinson. There's a timeout in the action. The score, Maryland 3, Penn State 0. We'll be back right after this. 3-1 to play in the first quarter. Jess Atkinson, 31-yard field goal, has given Maryland a 3-0 lead. He will kick off again. And once again, Tony Mumford on the far side. Kevin Woods, the freshman from Birmingham, Alabama, at the bottom of your screen. He's averaging a bit better than 20 yards per return. The first kick was not returned. This one is very, very high. Woods again 5 yards deep. Will take the touchback, and Penn State again will start out at their own 20. Field goal drive, 32 yards in 10 plays. Took a bit more than 3 minutes, and again ended in Atkinson's field goal.
The route was there, and the pass was there.
Tailback Tony Mumford finds a hole and gets all the way out to the 27-yard line. Well, Penn State's running game has been rather
in the middle right here. You see the trap. Woofter, number 64, pulls. Mumford follows the trap. It gets up the middle, makes a nice gain of about 6 or 7 yards.
Kevin Donis, outside linebacker from Pittsburgh, as a matter of fact. North Hills High School made the tackle. Good piece of running by Mumford, who did follow the hole. 2nd and 3. Single setback is Steve Smith, and this is Smith. He's got a first down. He gets out to the 33, gains 6 yards. It'll be a 1st and 10. Chuck Fawcett, outstanding inside linebacker, a sophomore from Cinnaminson, New Jersey. 6'2", 238 pounds.
So you can't get outside.
So a sweep is a difficult play to execute against Maryland.
Very difficult.
Out of the eye, 1st and 10, Penn State their own 33. Mumford does well to get out to the 35 and pick up a couple.
Right to 35. So they want to drive everything, funnel it into the inside to those big linebackers.
Receivers split to either side. 2nd down and 8. Strang will throw. He's in big trouble. Now he'll never get out of it. He's sacked back. Wow. Third down, 16 yards to go. Now you'll see Maryland has dropped off those outside ends. Now Strang's got time, but no one to throw to. Fires out in the flat to Tony Mumford. 30, 35, still on his feet out to the 38-yard line. It'll be shy of the first down, but a good job by Tony Mumford to prevent a loss. Safety Al Covington, a junior from Danville, Virginia, made the tackle.
Well, you see, Maryland only came with 4. They took Shankweiler, their defensive end, and they dropped him off to double cover to both wide receivers. Now, it was a good drop-off to Mumford, and it was excellent running, but he had too far to go.
Keita Covington will be back deep. He is averaging 14.7 yards per return. John Bruno punting for Penn State. Covington at his 19. Gets a great block. He's out to the 30. Fumbles the football. It's loose at the 28-yard line. Let's wait for them to uncover. Maryland has recovered their own fumble, and a Penn State player is down for return. Penalty call will go against Maryland. And I'm going to assume that the clip was on the player who is currently down. We'll try to find out who that is for you. Mike Stillman. He's the man who snaps on punts, and usually the first one down. The clipping penalty goes against Maryland, moves them all the way back to just outside their 12-yard.
Clipping during the return.
7:02 to play in the first quarter. There's a timeout in the action. The score, Maryland 3, Penn State nothing. We'll be back right after this. 5.9 yards per punt return. Gets a better one than that. Gives Penn State good field position. 4:51 to play in the first quarter. There's a timeout in the action. The score, Maryland 3, Penn State nothing. We'll be back right after this.
From Harry's American Bar in the Islands. You know what they use in their daiquiris, Collins, sours, pina coladas, margaritas, and Bloody Marys? Daly's cocktail mixes. Same goes for the Durrell Country Club in Miami. Lots of snazzy places use Daly's. That's why I use Daly's cocktail mixes in my place. Every drink tastes perfect every time. For your next get-together, pick up some Daly's cocktail mixes. Excuse me.
Fields in tandem, so instead of Steve Smith and Tony Mumford, we now have Tim Manoa, number 44 at fullback, and number 48, David Clark, at tailback. And, George, that's a good indication that Joe Paterno does not want to use DJ Dozier unless absolutely necessary.
I don't believe you'll see DJ today unless it's a spot situation. But Penn State still has not gotten their passing game cranked up, and they're going to need it today, I think, to beat Maryland.
First down and 10 from the 44. 10, slot to the right. Rocky Washington in motion. Strang with time, throws in the flat, incomplete, and a very poor pass. It was intended for tailback David Clark, and it was just a poor throw. Strang to throw. He's rushed, he throws over the middle, got a man, it is caught at the 30-yard line for a Penn State first down. Herb Bellamy makes the reception. It is his 6th catch of the year. Gives Penn State a first down.
Now, this is the Doug Strang we're used to seeing now. He has sufficient time. Here comes a little pressure. Now, watch how he steps up inside, finds Bellamy on a hook, a curl. This is what Maryland is giving him. Good reception.
Herb Bellamy, a freshman from Staten Island. First down, 10, Penn State at the 30. Strang with a play fake, looking deep for Rocky Washington. Touchdown, Penn State! 31-yard touchdown pass from Doug Strang to Rocky Washington. Washington's 4th catch of the year, his first touchdown pass. It is Strang's 3rd touchdown pass of the year.
All right, Stan, now watch them go from here. This is what they needed. A little fake to Clark up inside. They've been running inside all day long. It's a first down play. Rocky Washington has 4.4 speed, has his man beat, but the important thing, the ball was there today. It was a good throw.
Remember, college football, you only need 1 foot in bounds. Nick Gancitano, 9 for 9 on extra points this year. He's got it anyway. 3:47 to play in the first quarter. Penn State marching 44 yards for the touchdown, a 31-yard strike from Doug Strang to Rocky Washington.
right, now this is the type of a pass we've seen Strang throw before. Now see how, no tentativeness, he let it go. Washington does an out and up. As I said, he's got 4.4 speed. He's got his man beat, and the ball was right there on his inside, on his inside shoulder. Now this fake the clock helped. It froze the linebacker and froze the cornerback just enough for Washington to make his move. Penn State had been running up inside. You see the ball's got the perfect arc, giving the receiver a chance to get under it.
Well, that is key to Covington, the left corner, who was beaten on the play. Had good coverage on the 15-yard line, and that is Covington, who is back deep. Massimo Manca does the kicking for Penn State on kickoffs. Nick Gancitano does the place kicking. Although in games when given an opportunity, they have switched. Manca doing the place kicking and Gancitano doing the kicking off. Manca, sophomore, redshirt sophomore. Triple safety, but it is Covington who is back at his own 5-yard line. Manca's kick. It's deep. Covington will take at the goal line. Out to the 20, still on his feet, finally down at the 25-yard line. Key to Covington averaging 22.2 yards per return. Gets about his average, a little bit more than that. Rogers Alexander, first man in on the hit. I want to remind you that the cablecast rights to this game are granted by Penn State University and Maryland University to TCS Metro Sports. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without written consent of Penn State University and Maryland University is prohibited. The announcers on this telecast have been hired and paid for by TCS Metro Sports in consultation with Penn State University and the University of Maryland.
Facts.
Well, anytime you have a short yardage defense, there is the danger of someone going all the way. It happened to Penn State last week. Maryland with a first down. This time it is Neal. He's hit at the line of scrimmage. You can hear the leather from up here. Mike Russo made the tackle. Help from defensive end Bob White. No gain. It'll be second down.
You got Bodonic leading. Actually, Neal was very fortunate because the ball popped right up to him. And there's Dan Morgan, made the penetration and also the tackle.
Ray Isom is a single safety awaiting the punt of Darrell Wright. Isom averaging 4.7 yards per punt return. What wind there is at Wright's back, so he'll be looking at deaden the ball in the corner. He kicks for the corner. Isom, he lets it go, and it's still rolling loose, and Isom falls on the ball at his own 3-yard line, and is most fortunate to do so. The rule of thumb is, George, if it's inside the 10, let it go.
And that ball was going to roll right into the end zone and come back out to the 20. I mean, you know, I know Joe's got some gray hair, but he's going to have a lot more after today.
The kicking game cost Penn State a touchdown last week. It almost cost them a touchdown this week. Join us for our next telecast of the National Independent Football Network, Saturday, October 13th at 12 noon, when the Air Force Academy Falcons meet the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame on the TCS Metro Sports Television Network. Penn State at their own 3. They'll try to grind this one out. Tim Manoa, the fullback, gets out to the 5. A couple of yards. Second down and 8 yards to go.
You know, one play like that, even though Maryland didn't recover, changes the whole structure and tempo of the game. Maryland's going to come with a tough defense now, trying to make Penn State run it out, knowing that they're reluctant to throw the ball. And if Penn State has to kick, Maryland will get excellent field position.
Well, just like the Penn State touchdown, it was set up on the clipping penalty on the punt return. Maryland had a punt. Penn State got the ball at the Maryland 44-yard line. And that was the last play of the first quarter. That's the end of the first 15 minutes of action. The score, Penn State 7, Maryland 3. We'll be back right after this. Penn State started this drive at their own 5. Strang rolling. Manoa's ahead of him. He throws deep along the sideline. Throw it for grabs. Incomplete. Double coverage on Eric Hamilton, and the ball was thrown.
They allow you to change them, and others they don't. That particular pattern, I would say no.
Third down. 6 yards to go. Watch the reverse to Rocky Washington. Needs a block to get outside. breaks one tackle, but he will never get there. He will lose yardage back to his own 48. Maryland saw that coming, and Kevin Donis, the outside linebacker, made the initial hit, and Keita Covington cleaned him up.
Well, Donis kept this from being a touchdown. It was well run, well executed. The timing was great. Now watch all the peel blocks. You see the linemen go through and come back, but one man, Donis, the defensive end, was not fooled at all. He stayed home.
But really the play by Donis, a big rush on Bruno, but he gets up a nice kick. Covington will field at his 8. Tries to come up the middle, gets to the 12, 13-yard line. But Penn State is there to cover the punt. Marcus Henderson in on the tackle. He had help from Chris Collins after this.
People have a hard time telling it from a real apple. And that's because we aim to keep the natural flavor of real apples in our apple juice. Discover the pure golden goodness of nature's sweetest fruit. It's naturally crisp and refreshing. Just one taste, and you're sure to take a shine to it. Daly's apple juice. Pick some.
Maryland start out defensively, giving the ball to Penn State in their territory. Penn State moved 44 yards for a touchdown. Penn State again starting out in Terrapin territory, this time at the 47. 3:53 to play in the first half. Steve Smith follows a block up the middle, inside the 45, down near the 42-yard line. Well, Smith, the fullback, picks up 5. Tom Parker, defensive tackle, makes the tackle along with Dwayne Dunham. Steve Smith is a sophomore from Clinton, Maryland, so they are playing against some of their old friends. Penn State player down, but
You know, it was only a 5-yard gain, but it was good running because they were going to try a trap, and Maryland stuffed the trap, and Smith had the presence of mind to cut it back up into the inside and make some good yardage.
That is Jeff Woofter, senior offensive guard from New Cumberland, West Virginia. He is down. He was injured in the Iowa game.
Is that a bad angle?
The whale pants this week. Stan Clayton comes in at offensive guard. I thought he had burned those.
Well, his wife tried to burn him, and I think he went back and got him out of the furnace.
The gain for Smith was 5. This is Mumford. Gets a block from Smith inside the 40 to the 39. Gain of 3. It'll be third down.
The defense works.
See that Penn State has relied on the ground game much more than Maryland has, or at least been more successful at it. They now face a 3rd and 2 at the Maryland 39. Strang will roll. Needs a couple blocks. He falls forward, and I believe he's got the first down. Yes, he does. Eric Wilson tripped him up. Strang looked like he would not make it, but he managed to keep his feet long enough to get the dive in to get the first down by a
pull in the center. When the center's uncovered like that, you can pull him because he has nobody on his head. And he's rolling out there with a center and guard in front with that option, as we said before, to run a pass. Knowing he needed short yardage, he went for the first down.
Clock running, 2 minutes, 30 seconds to play in the first half. Penn State's 8th first down. They're at the Maryland 36. Strang, good protection. Throwing over the middle. It is incomplete and almost intercepted on the rebound. 2:22 to play in the first half. Penn State leading 7-3. Again, good protection for Strang. Now he's going to be in trouble. He's going to be sacked. He throws it left-handed, but they're going to rule that he was down. They're going to rule he was down in the grasp of... Actually, that time, you really can't blame Penn State's offensive line because Strang had ample time to throw the ball. Good job by the secondary.
Good defense by Maryland's secondary, and once again, Dougie did not find an outlet receiver. And when everybody's covered downfield and there's usually just a 4-man rush or a 3-man rush, you have a safety valve where you can dump the ball off to.
Penn State leading 7-3. Some other scores from around the country. How about this? North Carolina State leading Georgia Tech 10-7 in the second quarter. Auburn and Mississippi tied at 3 in the second quarter. Pitt, looking for their first win of the year, leads East Carolina 14-0 in the second quarter. Pitt is 0-4. That game being played at Pitt State. In Missouri leading Colorado 14-0 second quarter. Missouri lost a heartbreaker last week against Notre Dame. Missed it by a foot on that field goal attempt with very little time on the clock. Colorado, you know, it hasn't been that long ago. They were a national power. You remember, I believe it was 1971. when Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Colorado finished the top 3 teams in the country, and Colorado certainly has fallen on hard times.
Stan, Colorado gave Penn State one of its worst thrashings. This is when Penn State was really good in the late 60s and early 70s. They were great then.
3rd down, 16. Penn State at the Maryland 44. They need at least 10 to try a field goal. Rocky Washington in motion.
Got him.
Strang, waiting, throwing over the middle. He's got Bellamy at the 20. Bellamy knocked out of bounds at the 15-yard line. Strang waiting for Bellamy to clear. Hits him for a big gain of 29 yards. 1st and 10 Penn State at the Maryland 15.
Let me show you the difference here of patience. Now, he's got enough time to throw. Now, instead of no receivers open right now, instead of getting rid of the ball and forcing it, he allows Bellamy to cross on a crossing pattern to get free and puts it right there for a big 1st down. Patience is a big thing for quarterbacks. Young quarterbacks are impatient. Doug Strang shows his experience on that play.
Bellamy's 3rd catch of the game, 60 yards on those 3 receptions. 1st and 10, Strang looking, corner of the end zone, and it is caught by Seiberling. He's out of bounds at the 1-inch line. Brian Seiberling atoning for his drop touchdown pass, picks up 14 yards and a Penn State 1st down. It'll be 1st and goal to go.
Once again, a crossing pattern, and Strang allows the tight end to clear, and then he fires the ball right there down to about the 6-inch line.
Strang now 6 out of 12, 114 yards. He's hit his last 2 in a row. You see the ball placement, and now Maryland is going to call a timeout to set their defense. A lot of time left, 1:50 to play in the 1st half. Maryland will use one of their timeouts.
It's basically a quarterback sneak situation when you're that close.
Strang has scored a touchdown in a quarterback sneak this year. Eric Wilson wanted to come over and talk to his defensive coaching staff. This has been the longest offensive possession by either team, and the most successful. Penn State's touchdown drive was 44. This one, if consummated, would be 47.
But I can't emphasize enough the difference when you're hitting those passes.
Yeah.
You know, you mix up that blend of running and passing, and you got an entirely different offense. And that's what they have right now in those 2 drives that they, if they get in now, is some balance, which they haven't had since the 2nd half of Iowa.
Well, the Maryland standpoint, defensively, you've got a team 3rd down and 16 and have done a good job against their pass. It's enough to make you tear your hair out.
Well, they changed their patterns. Penn State's were trying to hit the curls early in the game, and now they've gone to crossing patterns. And the key was Strang's patience to wait for the receivers to open up.
Maryland came into the game with 4 quarterback sacks. They have 2 today, so they have exerted pretty good pressure. But the last 2 times, Strang has had more than ample time to throw, that time hitting Seiberling on the crossing pattern. 1st down. Goal to go. Well, just a few inches away. Power eye to the right. Tony Mumford, he did not get there. Great penetration by the Maryland front line. Excellent job by one of the quarterbacks, number 2, Don Brown. He got in there untouched and really submarined the play. Penn State will use their 2nd timeout.
Actually, they lost yardage. Now, you see number 2 coming from the corner there, Brown. That's why I don't like that formation. It allows the cornerback to come right up on the line of scrimmage and fire from the outside. And, it's pretty tough to get a block on him. Now, he's supposed to read the end on his side in case the end releases for a pass. But as soon as that end blocks down, he fires. And, it can be tough because you can't get a block on it.
Donald Brown really made a nice play. Knifing in. And Penn State does lose almost a yard, not quite. It is 2nd down and goal. The ball just inside the 1-yard line. Penn State using their 2nd timeout. They have 1 left. Let's see if Penn State gets out of that power eye. Donald Brown is a junior from Annapolis, Maryland. Great defensive play. Well, with everyone pinched in, George will make you the offensive coordinator. Do you risk a wide play? Some people have the theory you don't run wide on short yardage situations.
Well, the way they run wide plays now, the back has the option to take it inside or outside. I mean, to me, the best place always to run on the goal line is off tackle because you can get outside and still can find a crease to the inside. Right up the middle over the guards, they stack it.
All right, they get out of that power eye. They have a wing right. 2nd and goal from the 1. The handoff inside to Manoa. and he didn't get there. Picked up some yardage, but he did not get there. Eric Wilson, we're down and goal. Inside the 1. Strang bootleg, dives, touchdown, Penn State. Doug Strang diving over from inside the 1 has scored Penn State's 2nd touchdown of the game.
See, Stan, when you start going outside, you force movement. Movement forces openings to the inside. What he did, he followed the whole backfield, found a little daylight. Of course, he shows great aggressiveness right here. Leaps over Covington, gets in for the touchdown. That's Forsett he leaps over, a 235-pound linebacker. But when you move to the outside, you can find some creases. The only problem is you got to keep people from penetrating quickly.
Gancitano's extra point is good, and Penn State has marched 47 yards for a touchdown. They lead at 14-3. Fawcett and a good linebacker got in position to make the tackle. Strang said, "What am I, a linebacker? I'm not going to fool with him," and he dove over.
Well, he had a little momentum because he was on the run, and also, as I said, he found a slight crack. That's all you need to make about a foot.
George, is that dive available, for example, for a back, because it appeared that the Maryland defensive linemen, their responsibility is to submarine and jam things
That's exactly what they do. Everybody inside, they just give themselves up to make sure you can't just either quarterback sneak in or just run a straight ahead, a go-ahead, straight-ahead play. So therefore, if you get to the off-tackle hole and block people down, and nobody gets immediate penetration, when you get thrown for a loss, you got a good chance of finding a
defensive stand, although they gave up the touchdown.
Red screen.
Now the clock begins to roll again. And
I don't think that was the case here, but
I think the reason there is, George, because now they're putting 47 seconds, and I'll tell you why. The ball was never snapped. And, of course, when they started the series, the clock was stopped after the kickoff. So that's why the 47 seconds is back on the clock.
And Coach Ross was correct.
Yes, he was. But it is still 1st down and 20. Gelbaugh flushed out. Fires
the touchdown. They want to keep the ball in front of him here.
And here comes the blitz.
With the rush.
Pass thrown to the flat, and it is incomplete. Pass underthrown again, attributable to the Penn State rush. John Bonato was the intended receiver, number 20. That'll bring up 3rd down and 10, Maryland, at the Penn State 48, 24. He's chasing him. He throws it. It's incomplete and almost intercepted by Don Graham. We've got a flag down, and we're going to get roughing the passer.
Well, he threw that ball to Marvell. He tried to throw the ball, dump it off to 73, Stan. The 300-pound tackle.
Penn State went for the
6, and, you know, they got some other big people on that team. They have a few people who go about 280, or Edwards is 282. That's a big football team. Penn State will not play any team bigger than Maryland.
Penn State with 9 seconds to play in the first half. With a 14-3 lead, it can be presumed they will just sit on it, go to the half with their 11-point halftime lead. Tony Mumford up the middle, across the 25, and out to the 28. And that will do it for the first half of play. Dave Amen from Baltimore makes the tackle for Maryland, and we have finished the first 30 minutes of football. Penn State and Maryland at Beaver Stadium. That's the end of the first half. The score, Penn State 14, Maryland 3. We'll be back right after this.
25 now. Penn on the move once again. They lead 14-0. And McGee.
Penn State has scored the last 2 touchdowns, and they have that halftime lead, 14-3. We'll be back with our halftime show right after this.
First flight of the shuttle orbiter Challenger. And we are America's first black astronaut, flying aboard the space shuttle as a mission specialist. And we are the country's top student of space research. She won the National Space Club's Goddard Scholarship. We are leaders in space.
We are Penn State! Penn State!
We are an art historian who is a world authority on the Italian Renaissance. And we are an author who has revealed the secret political activities of 2 Supreme Court justices. And we are a dairy physiologist who has won agriculture's highest international honor. His techniques in artificial cattle breeding have increased the world's food supply. We are people serving people.
We are Penn State!
The game is allowed to be shown live to you today because of the NCAA Supreme Court ruling that was handed down this summer. Jim, we're nearly at the halfway point of the season. How, in your judgment, has this new ruling affected college football? How has it gone?
Well, from the fan standpoint, I suppose it's been pretty good because they're really getting their choice of a lot of games to watch. I'm not sure in the long run that's going to be good. I think at the halfway point, as you put it, Stan, it isn't going as well as people thought it might. In fact, or we could reverse that and say it's going as poorly as people thought it might go, too. Some of the fears are being realized. And I think a couple things are making that happen. I think the fact that, first of all, we didn't get a coalition of the CFA schools, the Pac-10, Big Ten. It's too splintered. It's too fractured. Nobody was able to take to the networks and syndicators and a lot of other people a large inventory of games. So that's one of the things that was wrong from the beginning, and we've seen how that has affected. Let's take Penn State as an example. We saw how it affected Penn State with the Iowa game. Certainly the Iowa game is one that Penn State fans would have wanted to see. But the CFA plan says no crossover games. So Penn State was not allowed to be televised by CBS because of the virtue of our CFA plan with ABC, which does not allow crossover games on CBS. And CBS, of course, had the Big Ten, Pac-10. Well, then we hoped that TCS Metro Metro Sports could do that on a syndicated telecast, especially back to this area for our fans. We couldn't because what CBS did was when they saw the time of the Oklahoma Pitt game on ABC, a 3:30 time game, they simply shifted the Washington at Michigan game to a 12 o'clock to avoid going head-to-head. So then Iowa called us and said, sorry, Jim, you can't do the syndication of our game because we're not allowed to syndicate any game against our Pac-10, Big Ten, CBS package. Right there's a perfect example of why things aren't working the way we had hoped. Let's take the Alabama game next Saturday. The rule that in the CFA plan, the regulation that says that ABC, and of course that means ESPN also because they get second pick under that plan, the regulation that they can wait till 12 days before a game to make their decision, that's ABC, and then after that ESPN makes its decision, that leaves the syndicators as a distant third in making that decision, and the Alabama game's a perfect example. Preseason, there would be every indication to think that ABC probably would have done Penn State, Alabama. If they had not, certainly ESPN as its prime time game or on its prime time package. Now, so TCS, obviously, did not, they worked on other games. All of a sudden, here we are 12 days before the game. ABC says we're going to pass. We're going to do Texas, Oklahoma. We're going to do Alabama this week against Georgia. ESPN waits 2 more days to make up its mind and says, well, we've got it down to Penn State, Alabama, or LSU Vanderbilt. So they wait 2 days and decide they're going to do LSU Vanderbilt. Now, quickly, we start talking with you people, TCS Metric. Can we do this in 10 days? No way. You can, I can understand. You can't put it. So these are the kind of things. So the Alabama-Penn State game won't be on television. So these are the kind of things that are happening as we reach the middle of the season that we didn't anticipate. And I think the worst thing that's happening is to the syndicators, such as TCS. I know TCS has to be out there not exactly knowing what they're going to be able to deliver because ABC has that flexibility of waiting until 12 days before a game. That's one rule. It's got to change next year, if nothing else.
Quickly, Jim, do you feel these things are negotiable and can be changed when everyone next year has a better understanding of what can go wrong and what did go wrong in '84?
I think everybody appreciates the fact that things have to change. I think Gene Corrigan, the athletic director at Notre Dame, probably put it best. He said, all we're doing this year, all of us, is shooting ourselves in our own feet. And he said, it's ridiculous. We're not making any progress. We've got to change some things next year.
Okay, Jim, thanks very much. Jim Charman, athletic director at Penn State University. We'll be back with more of our halftime program.
Our regularly scheduled programs will not be seen tonight so that we may bring you a special sports presentation on WTAF TV 29.
presentation. 1 year ago, Penn State against Maryland at Beaver Stadium in University Park. Doug Strang with a touchdown pass to Tony Mumford gives Penn State a seemingly safe lead, 25-11. But Maryland was far from finished. Now down 25-18. Alvin Blunt with the touchdown run brings Maryland back to within 1 at 25-24. No question in Bobby Ross's mind, he goes for the two-point conversion. Gelbaugh, time, throws in the end zone, no! The pass was intended for Hill. He was open, but it was too tall. The two-point conversion failed. Today, Bobby Ross tries to break Penn State's 20-game winning streak against Maryland. TCS Sports presents Eastern College Football. Today, it's the 17th-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions visiting the 9th-ranked Maryland Terrapins. Live from Byrd Stadium on the campus of the University of Maryland in College Park, Maryland, it's Eastern College Football. Today, Penn State against the Terrapins of Maryland. Hello again, everybody. I'm Stan Savran. Welcome to Eastern College Football. Let me introduce my partner, George Paterno. George, Penn State comes into today's game in a rather unusual position, certainly not accustomed to the finish they had in 1984.
Yes, indeed, Stan, quite unusual. You know, after you go to 14 straight bowl games and have won the last 5, the team that you faced that in the first game of the year, you have a lot of momentum and continuity and confidence in your squad. You know they're a good bunch of kids. This year, Penn State's going into a game against a nationally ranked team for the first time in Joe Paterno's 20-year history as a head coach, having lost the last 2 games of the previous year and having lost them in an embarrassing fashion. So Joe's got a lot to wonder about.
And a tough team to prove anything against, and maybe he will know a great deal more about his team after playing a team that is being predicted as a possible national championship contender.
Well, Maryland won their last 8 games and won them in a spectacular fashion last year. A lot of the pundits pick them very high. Some people pick them #1. So Joe will find out today and what kind of a bunch of kids he's got, whether they're going to make a comeback, whether they will rebound, and will they go back to the old style of Penn State football.
Well, you know the song from the movie, The Heat Is On. That is certainly true today. The temperature for today's game in the upper 90s. It'll be well over 100 on the field. George, one of the strengths of Maryland, they have a huge offensive line. Penn State's defensive people, at least the front 7, much lighter. Is it possible Maryland could begin to wear them down late in the game with the heat the way it is?
Well, Stan, the weather could definitely be a factor. If Coach Ross can rest that big offensive line of his so they don't get tired and come on in the 4th quarter with a back like Badonic running behind him, who was one of the genuine power runners in the country, Penn State could be in trouble in that 4th quarter. However, usually very hot days bother bigger men than smaller men. And conversely, it might work to Penn State's advantage if Joe Paterno has quality substitutes.
So what we may boil down to here, the second unit against the second unit, and the better second unit may decide the ball game. These, by and large, are veteran football teams, and we'll be back to meet some of the familiar faces and key players in just a moment. Back live at Byrd Stadium on the campus of the University of Maryland in College Park, Maryland. Penn State and Maryland just a few minutes away from kickoff. George, big game are decided by big players who make big plays like DJ Dozier.
Well, Stan, DJ Dozier absolutely has to be one of the best backs in the country when he's healthy. This is a pattern DJ Dozer run, a combination of speed, power, and great moves. He had a great preseason, has come off arthroscopic surgery, didn't play against Maryland last year. Could be a big plus for Penn State today.
Well, Maryland's got a big play guy, but not a broken field guy. Rick Bodonic, the fullback, has been murder on Penn State over the years, and he may not be the best runner in the country, George, but I guarantee he's certainly one of the toughest.
Well, he's a real strong runner, about 5'9", 220, low center of gravity. He catches a little pass here from a rollout, then he turns on the steam and comes upfield, and when he gets rolling, boy, he's a tough man to take down. He's the heart of their running game, really.
One of the major topics of conversation in the offseason was who would start at Penn State as the quarterback. Well, the competition was between John Schaefer and Matt Kisner, and as you probably know, Joe Paterno was named John Schaefer the starting quarterback.
That's correct, Stan. John Schaefer is a classic-looking quarterback. 6'4", stands tall in the pocket, has all the great mechanics of a good thrower. Drops back here, and we'll see him just hit a little curl pattern to Eric Hamilton over the middle. He has to perform well for Penn State to move the football.
Maryland lost their quarterback, Frank Reich. He went to the pros, but their backup, who is now the starter, Stan Gelbaugh, had a great deal of experience last year, and especially so against Penn State.
Well, actually, Gelbaugh had a great game against Penn State last year. Threw for over 300 yards, almost pulled the upset by himself with some real poised plays. Here we'll show him on a bootleg action, and he hits number 81, Eric Holder, wide open. The big thing is he gets the football there. I don't believe that Maryland loses anything with Gelbaugh replacing Wright.
You got to have receivers to throw to. One of the problems Penn State had a year ago was finding experienced receivers. Now, there's no more experience there necessarily, but I know that Joe Paterno's high on a redshirt freshman, Ray Roundtree.
Yes, he is. Ray Roundtree had a great preseason practice, and now we'll see him here catching a little ball over the middle. What Roundtree has, what you want in a receiver, he's got great speed and great jumping ability.
Well, we don't know who's going to win the game, but if I can pronounce this, it's a major victory. Azizuddin Abdur-Rauf is the leading receiver for Maryland. He's a good one.
Well, Mr. Abdur-Rauf is an excellent receiver, number 87. He's tall, got great range, and again, when he catches the ball, he's a threat to go all the way at any time.
You know, there are a lot of people, George, who feel that with Penn State having a few places unsettled in the offense, the defense may have to carry him. And one of the keys, try Captain Rogers Alexander, who played high school football just a few miles from here.
Well, I agree. I think the game will be decided today on defense. Rogers Alexander is one of the toughest linebackers there are in the country. You'll see him here on a play where he does his thing, an inside fill, and hits that great power runner, Bodonic, and stops him in his spot. Rogers Alexander is also one of the leaders of the Penn State defense.
And Maryland's got its outstanding linebacker as well, Chuck Fawcett, playing inside in Maryland's wide tackle 6.
Well, in Maryland's 4-4, he's an inside linebacker. He's a clone of Rogers Alexander, exactly, almost, just a little bigger, hits just as hard, and also is the heart of the Maryland defense. Here you see him on a blitz, coming up on a stunt to the middle, putting down the ball carrier.
Well, we talk about the key players in the game. That, of course, is subject to change. As we mentioned earlier, with today's heat, it's entirely possible someone on the second or maybe even the third team might decide the outcome of today's game. But those are the key players for both teams. We'll be back with more of our pregame show in just a moment.
Blackledge, in 1982, a record 22 touchdown passes, but 2 of them weren't called in the huddle. They became 2 of our great players' great plays.
This feature is brought to you by the 21 Mountain Men of Olds, your home team, Old Steelers, proud to be part of Penn State.
Birmingham, Alabama, the Crimson Tide with an early 7-0 lead. Penn State's Kurt Warner lines up at flanker. Blackledge checks the defense, changes the play with an audible. Finds Warner wide open down the middle for a 69-yard scoring play. Alabama would come back to hand the Lions their only defeat that year. But now it's 5 weeks later, the final quarter at Notre Dame. Again, Penn State is behind. Again, Blackledge audibles. Again, Warner is open for a spectacular 48-yard touchdown. They did it twice that championship season. 2 great players, 2 great plays.
Pull at the far side entrance. Not that the broadcasters couldn't use it, dropping about 10 pounds, which you're liable to do this afternoon, but it certainly is a factor. The temperature at this point is 90, but it's supposed to reach in the upper 90s by the time the game is over. There is a nice wind, which may cool it off somewhat, although the field here is sunken below ground level, which means it'll be more difficult for the breeze to get through. George, what about playing in this weather? Not only the substitution factor, which we've already discussed. What about maintaining concentration for the players forgetting about how hot it is?
Well, Stan, we're always hearing coaches talking about mental discipline. Today, mental discipline will be a factor. Excessive heat, like excessive cold, debilitates the skills of a lot of players. So the team who can forget about the weather and go out there and get the job done will probably win the game. And this is where mental discipline will take its place.
Now, both coaches are going to have to play a lot of players. Number one, would you expect Penn State to substitute by unit, a whole new offensive line going in, a whole new crew of linebackers, or substitute one player for another player?
Well, I think that's going to be interesting to see how both coaches substitute, whether they will go for unit substitution or will they go for man-by-man substitution, or will one coach see if the other coach substitutes a whole unit, will he put in a whole unit? It's going to be a little game of chess in the beginning, not only for the strategy part of the game, but also for the substitution value.
It's almost going to be like a hockey game, for that matter, when the coaches substitute that way. Now we're going to go down to the center of the field for the toss of the coin to see who kick off and who will receive. Well, if you're a lip reader, you've got the idea anyway, if you can read signals. Penn State won the toss, and they chose the option at the start of the second half. So the Maryland Terrapins then get the option, and the Terrapins will receive. Penn State, of course, kicking off. There is a wind today. Again, it's swirling around the stadium, but the field is sunk below ground level, so how much the wind will be a factor remains to be seen. It is coming at about 12 miles per hour. Ross is in his fourth year at Maryland. His record 25-11. They have won 7 games in a row. They have been to 3 consecutive bowl appearances under Bobby Ross. Now, a year ago, Penn State beat Maryland 25-24 at State College on October the 6th. That was the 20th consecutive win for Penn State over Maryland. The series record, Penn State 27 wins, only 1 defeat. That 1 defeat came in 1961. You'll remember the quarterback who engineered that then Maryland upset, Dick Shiner, who went on to play in the National. Will be kicking off for Penn State. Again, he will have a wind at his back slight. It is swirling around. Keita Covington, who is a starting defensive back, number 1, is the deep man in the triple safety. The 1985 college football season all set to get underway. We're glad you joined us on TCS for Eastern College Football. What a game we've got for you now. 2 teams ranked in the top 20. Some people feel Maryland a legitimate contender for a national championship. In about 3 hours, we'll find out how legitimate contender they actually are. Speaking once again about the temperature, George, players are going to be perspiring freely, and I think that we may see a fumbled kickoff, a fumbled punt, and fumbled snaps.
When you talk about the heat, you have to remember heat and humidity. You get a tremendous amount of perspiration on the hands, and the receivers and the backs, anybody touching that ball has to be conscious of really controlling it, or you will have quite a few turnovers.
Keita Covington, one of the leading kick returners in the ACC. He's a junior from Danville, Virginia. His brother, his older brother, Al Covington, is a starting safety. Keita Covington is the starting left corner and will return the kicks for Maryland. There is Massimo Manca, and there is Covington, the 2 principals at this moment. Sellout crowd at Byrd Stadium. It's been a sellout for months. As a matter of fact, they are showing the game closed circuit at Cole Fieldhouse. You basketball fans are familiar where Lefty Drizel holds court. We are set to go. What a game to open up the season with. Penn State and Maryland. Covington at the 6. It gets out to the 26-yard line. So a 20-yard kickoff return for he averaged 271 pounds. First down, 10 yards to go out of the pro set. Blunt. Hole at left tackle, gets out to near the 29-yard. Defense Bob White, Mike Russo, Tim Johnson, Shane Conlon. The front four, Trey Bauer, Rogers Alexander, Don Graham, the linebackers. Duffy Cobbs, Lance Hamilton, the corners, Ray Ison, the safety, and Michael Zordich is the hero. Sean Sullivan comes in as a wideout, number 89. He's lined in a slot to the right on second down and 7. Yell ball, and it is intercepted. Mike Zordich. Zordich. Touchdown, Penn State. Michael Zordich intercepts and returns for the touchdown.
Stan, that time, that was just a bad play by Gelbar. They had two wide receivers to the wide side of the field, Sullivan and Abdur Rauf. Now, Gelbar does not see Zordich step in front. He made a great adjustment on the ball to catch it and intercept it, and with his real good foot speed for a strong safety, takes it in for the touchdown. Great break for Penn State early in the game.
Michael Zordich, the senior and captain from Youngstown, Ohio. Massimo Manca will attempt the extra point. Matt Kisner to hold. Kick is up, and the kick is good. What a beginning. We've played just 50 seconds of the football game. Michael Zordich makes the big play. 14-10 to play in the first quarter. We've got a timeout. Penn State 7, Maryland nothing. We'll be right back after this. We want to remind you that the broadcast cablecast rights to this game are granted by the University of Maryland and Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions to TCS. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without written consent is prohibited. The announcers on this telecast have been hired and paid for by TCS in consultation with Penn State University. Scouted, they are familiar with it, and they thought that perhaps on that second down and long, they anticipated the play.
Well, they put two wide receivers to the wide side of the field, and then with Sullivan in the slot. He was going to go, he was running a quick out, trying to get the first down. Now, what happened there, it shows what happens when you change your defenses. Zordich lined up near the line of scrimmage as if he was going to play the run. At the last minute, dropped off to play the slot man. Gelbar made a mistake, didn't see Zordich, threw the ball out there. Mike stepped in, made a fine interception, and took it in for the touchdown. Here it is. Now, Mike Zordich shows a lot more foot speed than I thought he had for strong safety. Almost got run down. Now, what that has done for Penn State, aside from getting the points, and we know that Maryland comes back, it's a tremendous lift for their defense.
Oh, unquestionably. You know, another thing about the defense, by the way, that's a 32-yard interception return by Michael Zordich. As we introduce the defense, and we'll show them again, we have them listed as a 4-4. That is really a matter of semantics, and we'll get into that, exactly what kind of defense Penn State is playing. Well, Covington's getting a lot of practice. This kick comes down at the 3. Good defensive play on the special teams by Trey Bauer. They'll make it Barry Bookman, number 26, who came down. Covington does not get back to the 20-yard line. He gets out to the 15, and so Maryland will start out in 4.
Because they usually have a man on the nose guard. Now, what they do with the weak side tackle sometime, which will be Bobby White, they flip-flop their defense. He'll be in a standing position with a linebacker outside him, and it gives them a lot more gaming ability.
Second down and 8 for the Terrapins at their own 17. Play fake. Conlon blitzes, and the pass will get out in the flat to Badonic. First down and more. He's finally run out of bounds at the 34-yard. In a short yardage defense. 5 men across the front. Third down and inches. Badonic has the
side of the field, run the ball. They run it to the tight end. They run over Marlavelle and that big tight end, Edmond.
9:20 to play in the first quarter. In case you joined us late, Penn State leads 7-0 on an interception and return for a touchdown by Michael Zordich. Third down and 2. Badonic. He's got the first down of the 21. Number 39, Eddie Johnson, a freshman, comes in to replace Lance Hamilton. Here we go. Second down. 7 yards to go. Maryland at the Penn State 18-yard line. Second down and 7. Pete Giftopoulos, the sophomore linebacker, still on his feet, and finally run out of bounds at the 40-yard line.
Well, Stan, they just put Giftopoulos in there. He's previously a tight end. and he was in the perfect spot once against Gelbar. Watch Gelbar here. He makes a bad throw. He fakes the Bodonic. Giftatlis coming across from his inside linebacker position. He steps right in front. Another good break for Penn State, and he runs pretty well with the ball. He's 243 pounds.
He's from Hamilton, Ontario. Played a little tight end last year.
You see the drop here, coming across from his inside linebacker spot.
Well, big break for Penn State. They start out their own 36-yard line. This is their first snap from scrimmage. Dozier in motion. This is Steve Smith. Finds a hole up the middle, gets out to the 40, 41-yard line. Steve Smith, the fullback from Clinton, Maryland, not too far from here. It's a 5-yard game. Bruce Messner made the tackle. Here's Penn State starting offense. John Schaefer at quarterback, Dozier and Smith the running backs. Eric Hamilton and Ray Roundtree, the wide receivers. Dean DeMidio is the tight end. Offensive line, Mark Sickler, Mitch Farrat, Rob Smith, Todd Moles, and Chris Conlon at tackle. Second down and 5 yards to go. This time they line up in an I. Smith again, not much doing. Third down, short yardage, and the pass complete out on the flat, and it is good for a Penn State first down at the 48-yard line. Throwing out to Steve Smith, the fullback, Chuck Fawcett and Keita Covington.
Big
make
play.
The tackle on Steve Smith for the first down.
This is a great play for young John Schaefer. First third down situation, he throws a perfect pass to Smith coming out of backfield, just enough underneath to get...
College transfer. He's from Piscataway, New Jersey. He's number 9, wide to the right side. First down, 10. Schaefer will go back to throw again. Looking for Alexander, and it is incomplete. Interference. Interference will be called on Keith.
They passed on first down, which was encouraging. They came right back to the pass after getting the first down with Smith, and they got a big play out.
First and 10 from the Maryland 37. That is Michael Timpson, the freshman, in motion. Dozier. Halfback pass. Timpson's wide open. Incomplete, just off Timpson's fingertips. Almost able to hook up on the halfback pass, just inches long.
They call it a game of inches. I tell you, wasn't a bad pass, and maybe Timpson turned around.
They line up in a slot to the right with Roundtree. That is Eric Hamilton, motion far side. Dozier wing left. Draw play to Smith. Got open field. 30. 20. And down to the 17-yard line, Steve Smith. Keita Covington made the touchdown save. First and 10, Penn State. Full Pennsylvania. Second down, 16. Dozier, Roundtree, he's got it at the 11-yard line. Ray Roundtree, the sophomore from South Carolina, gets down to the 11-yard line. That'll still make it third down and 4, but a nice little out pattern there.
Oh, it was a beautiful adjustment by Roundtree to turn around, catch the ball, and keep his feet in the boundary line. Beautiful play by the receiver, Roundtree.
Raymond Roundtree, first catch of the game. His second catch of his career. He was redshirted last year. Mike Alexander comes into the game, as does Timpson. It is third down and 4. Dozier is yet to carry the ball. Penn State coming out throwing. Schaefer now 2 for 2. A big play here. Third and 4 from the 11. Schaefer. End zone. Almost a touchdown, knocked away at the last minute. Timpson had his hands on the ball, but a good stick by Al Covington knocked it loose, and that'll bring on the field goal unit and match the touchdown pass.
Not only that, Stan, they double covered Timpson. Maryland guessed right again. They knew Penn State was going to go there. You see the double coverage on him, but he almost made a super catch.
He had it, but Al Covington knocked it away. So Massimo Manca, who last year was 5 out of 10 field goal attempts. You'll remember, of course, Nick Gancitano did most of the kicking. That's Matt Kisner to hold. 28-yarder. Kick is up, and the kick is good. So Massimo Manca, the 28-yard field goal, Penn State, following the interception by Giftopoulos, ups their lead to 10-0. 4:29 to play in the first quarter. We've got a timeout. The score, Penn State 10, Maryland nothing. And we'll be back right after this.
And a lot of Temple's yardage, Jack, came on that first drive.
A lot of rushing yards and passing yards came in that first drive. After that, Boston College defense kind of settled down and played a lot better.
Now they're running everything inside the tackles so far, Stan, because like as you said, Penn State has pretty quick outside linebackers. I would look for Penn State to start taking the tackles, White and who's ever in there, to pinch them to the inside of their offensive tackles to take away that hole.
There's something to watch. Got young quarterbacks. Dwayne Downing, Eddie Johnson are the cornerbacks. One a freshman, one a sophomore. Hand off, and again Stryber with big running room down to the 4 out of 8, 53 yards. 2nd and 10. Tommy Neal trying to get outside. No, sir. He's met hard.
Gave the ball, and they went wide this time because Penn State did try to take away that inside running.
Gets it away, and he really unloads it more than anything else. It'll be incomplete. The Maryland fans want pass interference called on Bob Ontko, who was over there covering Tommy Neal, but they will not get the call. Matt Johnson and Donnie Graham, the official signals that they touch the ball in the end zone, and so there'll be a touchback, and we've got a flag on the player. That may just be the marker, but let's wait and see. He made vacation. This is the TCS Sports Saturday, September 14th, 1 week from today at 12 noon Eastern Time, when the Penn State Nittany Lions meet the Temple Owls on the TCS Sports Television Network. That game at Beaver Stadium in University Park, the home opener. And George will hope it's about 30, well, 30 degrees may be too much to ask for, but 20 degrees cooler anyway.
Anything would be better than this.
I'll tell you, in late October, early November, we'll be remembering today and wanting somewhat of a compromise on 1st down. And he's looking deep for Timpson. Timpson makes a great catch at the 30-yard line. Oh, what a catch by Michael Timpson, the freshman from Miami.
Well, that sure makes up for the other one. That was a great throw, though. A great throw.
50 yards. And you're right, a great throw by John Schaefer. What's that got to do for his confidence?
Stan, they had good coverage on him. He had to put the ball way out there to allow Timpson to use his speed and on his outside shoulder for him to make the reception because the coverage was so close. It's the perfect throw and a super catch.
Timpson, the freshman from Miami, you've heard a great deal about him. Eric Hamilton motion. And that is going to be the end of the first quarter before Penn State can get off the play. So a freshman impact right then and there. That is the end of the first quarter. The score, Penn State 10, Maryland nothing. We'll be back right after this.
Nose tackle for a long time in the NFL.
That's for sure. 2nd and 9. Looking for Palmer. Palmer gets a good block and gets up near
his defender and enabled Palmer to get additional yardage upfield.
As you see, Salt's 3 for 6 and 50 yards so far.
The second quarter of play, Penn State leading Maryland 10-0, and the Nittany Lions with the ball in the Maryland 30. 1st down and 10. Schaefer now, 3 out of 4, 68 yards. We have a new backfield. David Clark, number 48. Tim Manoa, number 44. Schaefer, left sideline. And quarter. Maryland has the advantage. It's 50 of Penn State, 68 passing yards coming on the play to Michael Timpson, the last play of the first quarter. As you can see, Maryland very well balanced. What has hurt them, of course, the 2 interceptions that Gelbaugh has thrown. 2nd down and 10. Dozier back in the ball game paired with Manoa. Dozier has yet to carry the ball. This is his first carry. 25 and down to the 20. Penn State has passed the ball very successfully, and on a 3rd and 4, George, they passed. They may do it here.
Maryland has made some substitutes on defense.
Dozier moves to a wing. I think he got to the 1st down marker. He'll be about a half yard shy. They ran that into the boundary, and Dozier really didn't have much room to maneuver.
Well, they did.
4th down and about 2 feet.
That's by design. They just wanted to flick it out there to get that 1st down, hoping that the linebacker wouldn't get over there that quickly. But it's the first big decision for Joe. I'm sure he's going to go.
He is going for it. Tim Manoa comes into the ball game. He is the best blocking back that Penn State has. Dozier also in the ball game. You're going to probably see a power eye here because Smith, Manoa, and Dozier are in the game. You got a double tight end, and Schaefer's going to call a timeout. Wasn't sure of the alignment, and on 4th and a foot, and there were only 3 seconds to go on the 25-second clock. So Penn State will use one of their 3-back offense, so they had it in there. I know you'd like to see a play fake, and
no, not at this juncture of the game.
Well,
it's too early.
He's mellowing in his old age. Usually he wants to just, you know.
Well, they're moving the ball pretty well. In fact, Maryland substituted their 2 defensive guard positions. They got Arnold and Baker in there, and They got two tough running backs in there with Manoa now and Dozier. They should be able to make, their offensive line's been getting a pretty good surge, and they should be able to make this first down. Big play for Maryland's defense, obviously.
Absolutely. Domidio and Cyberling, a double tight end. You have the three-back offense with Smith on a wing left. Manoa is the front man in the eye. Dozier the deep man. Smith in motion. Dozier. First down and more. Gets outside and he's down to the 15. Walking back. Schaefer. Complete inside the 5-yard line. Ray Roundtree with the catch, and he took a serious lick, but it's a Penn State first down. Boy, the Penn State pass offense looks very, very sharp.
Nothing wrong with John Schaefer today. He drilled this in. He had to drill it low, allowing Roundtree to come back to it a little bit and makes a great catch, but he's hit every receiver. The only incomplete pass he has is the one that went out of bounds. Excellent protection. It was a play-action pass, which was on first down Maryland didn't expect.
Great job. That may have been Michael Timpson who made the catch and not Roundtree. 5 instead of 6. Tim Manoa, who weighs 284 pounds, at least at the start of this game. Double tight end for Penn State. Same alignment on the short yardage, except they're in a pro set. Schaefer wants to throw, throws in the corner. Touchdown! The pass complete to one of the tight ends, Bob Williams.
What a catch.
The play fake, and Bob Williams, one of the reserve tight ends, the touchdown catch.
Then what they did, Maryland expecting to run, obviously. They released the tight end quickly on a slant pattern. Now, he made a great catch. He hits the ball with his left hand, bats it into his right hand. A good piece of luck for Penn State. The corners will run off by the flank.
What a great catch by Bob Williams. Manka with the extra point. Kick is up, and the kick is good. So the Nittany Lions driving for the touchdown. 12:04 to play in the first half. We've got a timeout. It's Penn State 17 and Maryland nothing. We'll be back right after this. Gelb ought to throw very early. Chris Collins, number 38.
Penn State better be careful, though. The way they played that, they're bringing Zordich out on the slot, and Ray Isom, the safety's up pretty tight to fill in case they try to run to that side. They'll have to come back and try to hit the wide receiver on a deep post, and it's going to isolate that defensive back.
Russo's got him around the ankles and sacks him. Back at the 30-yard line, Tim Johnson also went on the play. But Mike Russo made the big rush and got the sack.
Well, Stan, this is a great example when it's to your advantage. Now, Penn State's got them 3rd and long. They come with a rush with just the down people, dropped everybody off. Gelbach could not find a receiver.
Jim Coates, back deep, right to punt. Not a very good one either. Coates will let it bounce, and it'll roll out of bounds near the Penn State 27. I'd like to move the ball, give that first offense a little bit more rest. Schaefer almost falls. He goes back. Got room to run. There's a flag down. Wide open is Clark, and he drops it. The first punt of the game for John Bruno, who averaged nearly 42 yards per punt last year. Watch out. They got a punt block on. Bruno gets it away, and it's a pretty good kick. Could use a roll. Doesn't get one. Goes out of bounds at the 29-yard line. So it's a 42-yard punt with no return. A good job by John Bruno. 9:39 to play in the first half. There's a timeout on the field. Penn State still leading it 17-0. We'll be back in just a moment.
Goes to the outside. Looked like he's got daylight. Hamilton plays off the offensive blocker. Abdul Rauf, the flank, and also a lesson should be taught to not to make.
He has performed well tonight. Basketball coaches will tell you the first 5 minutes of a half are exceptionally important. I think with the mood of the crowd, Maryland playing at home, the first 5 minutes could be critical, because if Penn State is unable to move the ball, forced to punt, and Maryland would go in to score, obviously the entire game just turns right around. Next week. At this point, Temple trailing Boston College 9-7. That game in Chestnut Hill. 9-7. Boston College leading Temple. The kick. Coates at the 6. Coates on his feet out to the 27 near the 20. In Northeastern Ohio, Penn State starting out at their own 27. They have had one long drive in the game, that an 80-yard touchdown drive. Key play there was a 50-yard bomb to Michael Timpson. Steve Smith and D.J. Dozier, the running backs behind John Schaefer. Dozier looking to get outside. Dean DeMedio switching sides. Dozier on a wing left. Smith is the lone setback. Drop play to Smith. Still driving, and a good run by Steve Smith out to the 32. That was a little screen pass, a dump pass to Steve Smith in the first quarter. So a very big third down play in terms of momentum. Schaefer over the middle, and it is intercepted by Fawcett. Fawcett inside the 30 and brought down to the 20.
To 8. The extra point no good. Back deep to receive the kickoff for Temple, Paul Palmer, Todd McNair.
Gerald Giles went wide left. Dozier. Hit. Ball's out. Dozier looks a bit shaken up and a bit woozy. Smith on the wing. He uses the blocker. Dozier drives for the first down. Dozier low. Smith the up back on the eye. Unquestionably. Well, Maryland still has its 2 timeouts. Schaefer drops. Well, you know, we sit up here, X's and O's, the coaches study film, we analyze, we check things out, and when it comes down to it, sometimes it's a horseshoe or a 4-leaf clover.
Well, good luck. Now you know why I got out of coaching.
You got the gray hairs anywhere. I wonder what you'd look like if you to continue.
I was getting all the aggravation without the money. It's, you know, it's bad enough when you're getting the money, but without the money, it's really tough.
Well, barring anything really unforeseen, Penn State will stretch its winning streak against Maryland to 21 in a row, the series record to 28-1. But believe me, several of these games in the past 10 years have been so close. Last year's, of course, a 25-24 game. This game, which Maryland easily could have won.
You know, Joe Paterno has never lost to Maryland, and I kind of think that Lord Baltimore, when he first came here, must have mistreated the people from Brooklyn.
Either that,
we've been getting everybody.
Tonight, in the Chesapeake Bay, they're going to close down every Italian restaurant in your honor. Now there is Len Lynch, senior offensive guard from Levittown, PA. Their offensive line, Maryland's offensive line, did a tremendous job running the ball exceptionally well. Maryland will have 1 timeout left. Schaefer will drop on the ball. Maryland will use that last timeout, and that should be it. Maryland uses the last timeout with 29 seconds to play. There is Rick Badonic again playing a great football game. He's a tough customer. I mean,
he's great.
He's a solid runner. I would imagine that given an opportunity in professional football, he'd be a great special team.
He'd be another Jimmy Taylor. You know, without sounding trite, my heart goes out to Maryland. I have nothing but the utmost respect for their coach. He's a great credit, you know, to the coaching profession. They've done a fantastic job here. They played their heart out, and they got outlucked today. Penn State did a great job coming back from last year after those last 2 losses, but Maryland, your heart has to go out to them. The first chance they've had an opportunity to possibly go on and win a national championship, and to get upset in your first game, oh boy, I mean, I know what's going on in those kids' hearts and their stomachs. It must be terrible.
Well, Rick Badonic said in this morning's newspaper, in the Washington newspaper, he said, I don't know what'll happen to us if we lose this game. And it's not a matter of them saying to themselves, we played very well, which they certainly did. But when you lose so many close games like that to one particular team, it's very disheartening. And Badonic said himself, we can no longer be satisfied with merely playing well and losing by 1 or 2 points. Sooner or later, you've got to turn the corner. There's a guy who turned this program around, Joe Paterno, now 17-0 against Maryland. And Penn State will drop on the football. That has to be done here is for Schaefer to drop on the ball. Maryland out of timeouts. And that'll be it. A reminder that we'll be with you again next Saturday from Beaver Stadium in University Park, PA. Penn State's home opener against the Owls of Bruce Arians and Temple University. Good option team. You'll see a different style offense next week. Schaefer drops to his knees. And that'll be it. And we got another flag down.
What Maryland is doing is
Well, the clock will start again.
Now, if they're deliberately encroaching or causing the flag to be dropped, they're going to see if they turn down the penalty. Decline it again.
Well, it makes no difference because as soon as the ball is marked for play, the clock will start again, and the final 20 seconds will be called off. 25 seconds in which to get the ball into play. Of course, Penn State can utilize all that on the time clock. The penalty is declined, and now the clock will restart. Well, it was a thrilling football game, regardless of which side you were rooting for. It was just a tremendous college football game. More twists and turns than any Pennsylvania winding mountain road. And it really was not decided until the final 40 seconds of the game. Well, a little bit of discipline on the sideline already, early in the season.
He was trying to run on the field. He caught one of the young freshmen, and he didn't want him to be exhilarated a little too soon.
Well, now it is time for celebration. That is the end of today's football game. The final score, Penn State beating Maryland for the 21st consecutive time. The final, Penn State 20, Maryland.
A cheerleading squad on the sidelines. Well, now she can be what she's always dreamed of being, a cheerleader. Get up and cheer will get your young athlete jumping, tumbling, and chanting like never before. This video on the basics of cheerleading features instruction by members of the nationally ranked Penn State cheerleading squad. Get Up and Cheer has warm-up exercises, gymnastics, partner stunts, and more. For $34.95, order your own copy of Get Up.
They file out of Byrd Stadium to the locker rooms. Penn State with the opening game win over Maryland, 20-18. George and I will be back with some post-game comments right after this.
You're never too young. There's a Daly's treat for everyone. Fresh fruit flavors as good as can be. Loaded with tons of vitamin C. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, Daly's has a flavor just right for you. And what are you waiting for? Who could deserve it more? Treat yourself to the fun. There's a Daly's treat for everyone.
I know.
Long from College Park, Maryland, where the final score once again was Penn State 20 and Maryland 18.